Welcome to Proudly Out of Line. I'm Marty Moore, an old school dyke and the CEO of Boulder-based Rocky Mountain Equality. With everything going on around us in this world right now, it's the perfect time for all of us to be engaged, informed, and hopefully have a little fun along the way. On with the show. Today's guest is the new CEO of the amazing Gill Foundation, a woman that I have always looked up to and who, at creating change each year, set me on the course to do the work that I needed to do for the year for our community. She's also the woman who taught me it's okay to use the F-bomb. And if you listen to any of my speeches, you'll know I use it freely. But when somebody like Kendell stands in front of a crowd of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people and tells it like it is, you listen. So today I hope you will all listen as we get a few moments to talk with Kate Kendell in her very busy schedule. Kate, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Marty, wow. That was a very generous introduction. And I just want to say to you, we've been in each other's lives for a very long time. And to have you doing this podcast and to be a guest on it, let me tell you, babe, the honor is mine. And I am just so grateful that you do this work and that you're in the world.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Kate, when you left NCLR before the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, I lost track of time, as most of us have. My heart was pretty broken, thinking about not having your voice in the movement, because I've always found you to be the voice of vision, the voice of let's get it done, and your ability to pull people together. And we lost that. And as I look from my spot in Colorado towards the national movement, there hasn't been, and there still isn't, anybody like you. And so we're all out here in these flyover states, and I'm kind of reaching to DC. What do you want us to do? What are we talking about? But you're back. And we're all really excited about that. And to be the first woman leader at the Gill Foundation, I think, yay, the glass ceiling, we got there. It shattered. Why are you back, and why now?
Well, just one minor correction. I'm not the first woman.
Oh, you're not?
Catherine Peace ran the Gill Foundation for a number of years. Courtney Cuff.
That's right.
Ran the Gill Foundation, and then Roger, and then Tim, and then Brad.
Thanks for the correction.
So it's been a bit since they've had a woman CEO, but I think Scott and Tim very early on, I feel like they always looked for what is the leader that the Gill Foundation needs in this moment. And the reason I feel like I am sitting here, and boy, I'm just over the moon to be back, at least adjacent to the front lines, if not exactly on the front lines as I was, because when I left the movement in 2018, look, we looked in very good shape. We had come off of 3 decades of a lot of ups and downs and a lot of getting our, teeth kicked in, but we had then started to turn the tide. We had fought for and won marriage. We'd fought for and won family protections. We'd fought for and won an end to conversion therapy. We'd fought for and won health access for transgender individuals and health access for young people and supportive families. We've notched so many wins, and it felt like it was time for me, based partly on my age and partly, as a white leader, I wanted to exit the seat to make room for others, and no one else can take that seat unless you exit it. And I think the leadership of the movement now is much more representative of who the community is, and I think that's fantastic. But look, we've all been through it between the pandemic and 2 administrations bifurcated by decency and care, but now back to cruelty and banality. I just couldn't be on the sidelines anymore. I wanted to be back in it to do what I can for my community.
Well, we're so grateful. We're so grateful, and you still got your spunk going. So I like the phrase you use, teeth kicked in because it makes it very real, and you can see it happening to us. You mentioned marriage, and the Gill Foundation, from an outsider looking in, was very invested in marriage equality. As you mentioned, we've gotten it. Thanks, Jim Obergefell. Thanks, Edie Windsor. Um, the world's still standing. We can get married. We didn't know that would be true, did we? Where are you going to lead us next?
Well, this is the thing that I've always loved about the Gill Foundation is they actually don't lead, they listen. And we are listening to community. We are listening to people most impacted by what's happening with this administration. And there are three, this was decided before I came on board. I just started, it's literally tomorrow, it will be 1 month since I started. And so these priorities were already set. There's essentially three buckets: direct service. These are organizations, think SAGE, think Trevor Project. I'm talking national organizations. These are organizations, Whitman Walker, that are losing millions and millions of dollars in federal funding to do the most basic care for the most vulnerable in our community. And so Gill has made a key priority trying to shore up. We can't replace all of that money, but we can maybe aggregate and at least staunch the bleeding a little bit until we can come out the other side of this. Second bucket is litigation challenging anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ executive orders. And this is where we've had some success. GLAAD and NCLR challenging Trump's ban on transgender service in the military. That is still very much being litigated, and the public absolutely supports transgender service in the military. So we want to elevate both the narrative and the litigation. So we want to turbo boost our litigators in order that they can bring more cases, because the courts are one place where we occasionally see bright spots. And then the third bucket is what we're calling Project Liberty. This is going to be led by individuals who understand narrative, how to try to have a voice in an ecosystem that is dominated by far right-wing voices and anti-LGBT voices, really try to turn the tide on that narrative. At the same time, having conversations with folks who we normally haven't had conversations with, and that is Republicans who are also dismayed at what they are witnessing, and bringing as many folks together as we can to try to both push back in this moment and then be ready to repair what's been damaged or decimated. And these are priorities that I can totally get behind. And those are three things. There's lots of other things other people could do, but I think Scott and Tim have always been laser focused on, we're going to do what we can about what we can based on our expertise and our community's expertise and the expertise of our partners. And I think those three priorities are key ways to try to both preserve democracy and stand in the breach for those who are most vulnerable.
What tremendous priorities. Thank you for sharing that information with us. Michael Adams, what's it like, the leader of SAGE? What's it like to be in a conversation with Michael Adams?
Michael and I just had dinner not too long ago when I was still at the California Endowment, and he was telling me that he was going to be leaving SAGE. And I have known Michael since I was with the ACLU of Utah. So this is before I even started with NCLR. He was way back when an ACLUer, and he was an attorney with the ACLU. And he has just been so dear to me for so long. And the thing that I love about being in conversations with Michael is he's so animated and he's so passionate, and yet he is so incredibly driven by heart and kindness and care. I mean, he really is truly one of the most decent humans on the planet. And we just have mad respect for each other. And, I'm excited to see what he might do next. He may actually be legit retiring. I haven't talked to him about any future plans, but this has been one of the big joys of my entire career. I have had the best people in my life, and I pinch myself every day.
Thanks for sharing that. I've never gotten to meet Michael, but I've watched his work over the
Oh,
decades. And
yeah, you got to meet him. Oh, you would love him. Yeah, you get him on your show. Have him on your show before he leaves. He'll do
that's a
that.
great idea.
Tell him I said. Tell him I said.
I will. I'll be sending that email. Thank you so much for that introduction. You mentioned Utah. I know you're from Utah. I think you went to law school in Utah.
I did.
Family there, if I track things on Facebook correctly.
True.
What do you think's going on in Utah right now?
I was just there actually because I have, a cadre of some of my very best and closest friends, the kind of ride or die crew. Everyone should have a crew like that. And then I do have family there. My sister is still there. I have a niece there and other nieces and nephews and grandnieces and nephews. I think Utah is in this really interesting place. In talking to my friends who are there, I mean, Utah is still very, very conservative. But one thing that's happening that I think is turning the tide a little bit is, I grew up Mormon in Utah, good girl gone better, as I like to say. And it's one thing about Mormons is they're kind people. And I may have very fundamental ideological and political disagreements with folks who are very conservative Mormon. My sister is very devout Mormon, but she is not conservative. She is very supportive of me and the entire queer community. But kindness is an important thing. It's an important value. And what I think they see happening nationally is a politics that is anything but kind, but it centers cruelty. It centers harm. And it essentially is gleeful the more harm it can enact on communities. And I think a lot of Mormons are soul searching. Wait a minute, this is not the kind of country we want to live in. And so I think there are some fissures in the support that this administration has previously enjoyed. And it'll be interesting to see kind of where the church and where the population comes out, as it's still, I think, very much in flux. And then you have this beautiful little blue bubble that is Salt Lake City. And when the legislature, there's some people are still so petty. When the legislature said you can't display gay pride flags anymore, put this in the same category as very, very petty and ridiculous behavior of Hegseth wanting to strip the aircraft carrier from Harvey Milk's name, who served in the Navy, and Hegseth never did. I mean, there's so many things about all this that are just appalling. But what did Salt Lake City do? They designed new flags
Right.
to stand-ins for the gay flags, and then they painted the main intersections, some of the main intersection, in rainbow colors because it's not a flag. And so, I love that you respond to, just petty insults with some ferocity and a little bit of badassery, and it's a nice thing to see. So Utah has always been kind of a contradiction, and it still is.
Thanks for that insight into Utah, and go Salt Lake City. That is a great way to respond to that pettiness. I read an interview, a really great interview with you. I think Inside Philanthropy might have been the publication, and it said that you were splitting time between California and Colorado, and then all the great travel that you get to do. Um, so in Colorado, we want you to live here. I'm just going to say that first. But so are you like set up in Denver? Are we going to see you more often here, or what's that going to look like for you?
Well, so far in May, I spent more days in Denver than I did home. And that was great because this is my third week in a row that I've been in the Denver office. And that's important to me because, I'm a pretty relational person and I want to build relationships with the staff that's here. And the only way to do that, especially being new, is to be in the office. So that's been really great. And I'm about to embark on, particularly in July and August, a lot of travel a lot of travel back to the East Coast. And so I wanted to front load my time here in order to, build these relationships. And then, of course, we all know you can do things remote and you can do virtual meetings and all that kind of stuff. And obviously we'll do that. But it's been really important to be here and to have some downtime, to have some lunches together. We're going to have a lunch today before I head to the airport. And I feel like that has set me up well. I'll probably be here when I'm not traveling all over the rest of the country, about 50% of the time.
That's
So,
great news.
set me up in an Airbnb. I like to have a kitchen where I can cook if I want to. But it's great to be downtown here. We're right near Union Station. And oh my gosh, have things changed in Denver from the time I was last here in 2018, from Union Station renovation to all these new buildings, including the one I'm sitting in right now. It's amazing how much Denver has changed just in the 6 years since I was here.
Oh yeah, it keeps changing. The whole work on the Pearl Street, or pardon me, the 16th Street no longer mall, like all
Yep,
the
yeah,
changes
yeah.
that all the changes that are going. Colorado's got a lot going, and as you know, Sundance left Utah,
I
and
did. I saw that, and so lucky you, Boulder.
we are so lucky. And I was lucky to have lunch with some of the staff when they came. They pulled some of our community leaders together, and they were asking about the safety of Colorado. What's it like to be in Boulder? What does that look like? And they have a lot of queer staff, and their queer staff was not feeling that comfortable in Utah. And I think that's one of the reasons nobody would say it publicly, except one person at the signing at the governor's mansion finally spoke to inclusivity is good for business. And so we're really glad that Sundance is coming, and we hope we can see you here when they come in 2027, I believe it is.
Well,
So,
I'm going to get to Boulder before
okay,
2027.
you better. You got to come see our new community center, 9,500 square feet. It is a gorgeous building. So,
You got a deal. I'll
all
come
right,
up in the fall. That's
good,
fantastic. I
good.
love that.
We'll do it. So, one of the things that I also admire about you are your tattoos, and I haven't seen you in a while. And I wondered if you got a new tattoo coming back to the movement, or how you have noted change on your body since we last saw you.
Yeah, I have a lot more tattoos than when you last saw me. I have one in particular that I got. I got it a few years ago, and I got it when I kind of first started at the California Endowment. This would be about 2020, 2021. And it's a quote from a prison abolitionist, Mariame Kaba. And Mariama has to, I mean, she's a prison abolitionist, right? I mean, I can't imagine a more difficult task, rolling that rock up the hill and have it roll right back down, than prison abolition work. But it's a longer quote, but the part of it that I tattooed on my forearm is hope is a discipline. And when I read that, when I heard it from a speech that one of our guests was giving at an endowment event, and she quoted that, and I thought, wow, if you can work in prison abolition work and your mantra is hope is a discipline, it just shows that it's something you have to exercise. It's like a muscle. You can't. It's not this feckless, you know, altruistic, ephemeral thing. It is an actual working thing that you must test every day and must put through the rigor of that exercise every day. And I feel like I've needed it now, more than ever, but it feels so true. And so, every one of my tattoos tells a little bit of a story, but that's one that I'm hearkening back to again and again, because it speaks volumes in a very few words, and from someone who, she had to exercise hope as a discipline.
Thanks for sharing that, and what a cool tattoo. You're so cool, and what an important quote. You have mentioned Harvey Milk, and one of our congressmen here is Congressman Joe Neguse, who I love to no end. And when he spoke last week, our county courthouse in Boulder was given National Historic designation for issuing the first same-sex marriage licenses back in '75. And of course, Joe came. He was in town, and as he turned, he said, "Marty's heard me say this before," and he says it every time. And it's a Harvey Milk quote, which is "Hope is never silent." And your quote, "Hope is a discipline," with that one, I'll get in meetings sometime and people will say, "Well, hope's not a strategy." And I think in the back of my mind, it actually is.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
actually
it
is.
is. It is. Well, because you think of the counter. If one does not have hope, one will not fight. One will capitulate. One will curl up in the fetal position and just refuse to engage. Those are all strategies. Those are strategies for ensuring that the worst elements in power succeed. So I completely agree with you, Marty, that hope sitting there and hoping and not acting, I mean, that's not a strategy, but being able to actualize and execute hope, that is a strategy. And I think it's just and I know that there's that Harvey Milk quote. There's, you got to give them hope. Another quote from Harvey Milk. These are activists who were really moving against all odds, and for them to latch on to the term hope as an inspiration, a source of inspiration, and an action. It was an action verb. They use it as an act. That's like, so that's the that's what animates the quote.
Yeah. You mentioned, so I had this question that's like this big question. It's a hard one because there's so many cool people. But when I think of my gay icon, it's Edie Windsor. Edie Windsor versus the United States. I mean, how much, who is it that you hang on to?
Well, it's interesting. There are four women that immediately come to mind. Edie for sure is one of them. I got to know Edie. I hung out in Edie's hotel room in Philadelphia when she was in her Ralph Lauren pink lounging robe. And we were drinking in her room. And finally I was like, Edie, it was like 12:30 and I was like, Edie, I've got to go to bed. She's like, what are you talking about? You're young. And I was like, wow. So she is still going strong, but huge, amazing human being. Yeah. Dell and Phyllis. Dell and Phyllis, in fact, it's so interesting. I just had a dream about Dell last night, where I was speaking somewhere and she was there in the audience. So they're still, Dell Martin and Phyllis Lyon founded the first LGBT organization, the Daughters of Bilitis, way back in the 1950s in San Francisco. Decades long activists doing so much work on behalf of the LGBT community and also the elder community and women's community and domestic violence. Dell wrote a whole book around combating domestic violence. So these were very accomplished women. And Dell died first in 2015, right after we won marriage, and they got married legally. Just a couple of months later, Dell died. And then Phyllis died, gosh, what would be April? I think it was April 2022, maybe. It was still during the pandemic. We weren't out of the pandemic yet, and I couldn't visit her. But before the pandemic hit, we spent a fair amount of time together. So those are two people hugely influential to me. And then also Audre Lorde, who I feel like is someone I missed. We were on the planet at the same time a little. We overlapped a little bit, but so she was someone I never got to meet. And yet there's another one, just like Mariama Kaba, said so many things that have resonated and hang on people's walls as sources of inspiration. And then I'm going to cheat and add one more because I've got Angela Davis, a picture of Angela Davis and a quote from her and her book sitting over here. Someone who I did have the enormous pleasure and honor of meeting and hanging out with a bit. These are just folks who, every single one of them, defied the odds and did not listen to the naysayers and took risks and risked their own personal privilege and capital in order to make life better, not for themselves, but for others. And it's just, they're all huge inspirations.
Thanks for sharing that amazing list. We've taken a lot of your time today, but I want to follow up with one more question, Kate. We're in our 60s.
Yep, I just turned 65 in April.
Happy birthday, happy belated birthday. I'm going to be 63 in August. So the years are catching up, and I feel pretty good. My knees are a little tired, but the rest of me feels pretty good.
I hear you.
And what I never believed it till recently. And I would hear people say, our hope of tomorrow is the youth. And I'm like, oh boy, we're in trouble. I would have that in my head. Well, I finally been educated, and I'm seeing that just around me. Like, I'm the old person on the block, and like the younger folks that I'm working with are doing amazing things, and I know we're in good hands. Can you talk a little bit about, from your vantage point, where you see young folks in our movement?
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't come back. I wouldn't have come back to take this job and be back in the movement um, if I didn't feel like two things. One, there was I needed to stand in the breach, and then I needed to be available to help do the building back. But there'd be no reason to do the building back if you didn't feel, if you felt like it was a fool's errand, that you're tilting at windmills. But we've got multiple generations behind us now, given our age, and these are folks who have an entirely different view of what liberty means, of what justice means. I just had dinner last night. My niece, my youngest niece, and her husband live here with my two nephews.
Oh, great.
And my oldest nephew transitioned during the pandemic, and I have never met him. I had never met him. But I did 2 weeks ago. And then just last night we went to dinner again. And I'll tell you what, he's 13. Then my kids, I've got a 44-year-old married to her wife, my two grandkids. I've got my 29-year-old son, my 22-year-old daughter. And every single one of them, even though there's, a generation between my oldest and my youngest, every single one of them have an entirely different view of the world. And there is no question but what the right thing to do is when it comes to race, when it comes to poverty, when it comes to disability, when it comes to gender identity or sexual expression. There's no question but how you want to show up as a human for communities that have suffered or have been in the line of sights in any way. And they're fierce. And so we're in very good hands. We're in a moment that's really, really frightening. And we have to shore up every institution we can and fight back in every way we can and be ready to build back. But when we're done and tired and we're really at the end of it, Marty, we're going to be able to, sign off knowing that that the world we always hoped we could achieve is going to be achieved.
We will get there.
We will get there.
Kate, thank you so much. I want to end with a little bit of fun because you're fun and I'm pretty fun. And so I was thinking this morning, this is the inaugural podcast, and I'm like, I'm thinking about Kate, and I don't know these things about her. So I'm calling this a minute with Mardi. And so
I love it.
We're going to end with a little bit of fun. Where's your favorite pride?
Oh gosh, that's so hard. Salt Lake City.
There you go. Where's your favorite hotel, you world traveler?
Well, you know what? I love the Oxford here in Denver, but I think probably my very favorite hotel, and this just happened, I just was at this hotel recently, is the Laslet in London.
Oh, of course that is. I'll have to check that one out. Favorite band?
Oh gosh, that's really, really hard. It's not really a band, but someone I just discovered very recently. I'm late coming to her, but oh my God, she just lights me up. LP.
Ooh, we're going to have to put that on the...
Oh, you got to check her out. Queer, amazing. Her voice, she whistles. She's got a discography that's huge. Her biggest song on Spotify has like 200 million streams.
Oh my God, where have I been? Well, don't answer.
LP, you got to check her out.
Check it out. Favorite movie?
Oh, geez, tons of them. But my all-time very favorite, and it blew me away when I first saw it in the 1980s, Robert Altman's Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. Ooh. With Cher. Cher is in it. Sandy Dennis. It all takes place. It's like a play, but they turned it into a movie. It was a play. It all takes place in this Five and Dime. It has queer themes. It has themes of redemption. It has themes of resilience. It is an amazing film.
Oh, great. Thanks for that. Okay, and then the last one. Who's your favorite podcast host?
Oh, God, Marty Moore.
All right, I knew that. Okay. Kate, thank you for all you do for all of us. And you give me hope. You give me happiness. And you give me vision. Thanks for all you do. And let us know if there's anything we can do for you.
Well, I'll see you IRL hopefully pretty soon. You take care of yourself, babe.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.